WCCS 101.1 FM and AM 1160. Good morning to you, and thanks so much for joining us on this Friday morning. It is 7:45, a quarter away from 8 o'clock. Mr. Bob Pollock joins us each Friday after morning at this time, and he is here again today. Our conversation brought to you by Marcus & Mack, a law firm representing injured people. If you have a question for Bob, you can give him a call at 479-1160 or 349-WCCS. We'll answer it on the air. He will. I won't. I'm too dumb.
You could try to answer it.
Hey, we got this spotted lanternfly. We made the list now, and we didn't really want to.
No, we didn't, but here we go.
Does that mean it's been found in numbers here in Indiana County? What does it mean?
It's been found.
Okay.
That's all it takes. And then you become quarantined.
You are quarantined.
So it appears on the map that East Wheatfield and West Wheatfield townships were the locations that put us on the map.
So
that's the area where they were found.
Armagh, Clyde, Robinson area.
Down in that very southeast corner of the county, where it attaches to Cambria County and Westmoreland County. Of course, there's a river that goes through there.
And a train runs through there,
And a train runs through there, and Route 22 runs through there.
Yeah, so it's not a surprise that it got there. Maybe it's a surprise that it took so long to make it on.
Yeah.
But, okay, so we have to go over it all over again. What are we looking for when we're looking for spotted lanternfly at this time of the year, in the beginning of April? Because it's going to be different than later in the year.
Absolutely. So right now it's egg masses. So you're looking for, and they can be, the adults last fall could have laid those about anywhere. They're not real particular about where they lay egg masses.
Any outdoor surface.
So yes. So, whether it's houses, garages, other outbuildings.
Fence posts, trees.
Tires, old tires, vehicles,
Somebody
plus
said,
plant material.
Somebody said, I think it was the state release said that we should look for something that looks like a wad of chewed up old gum.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And it can change color too. It can almost look like silly putty for a while. If you remember silly putty.
I do.
Yeah, good. Me too. We might be aging ourselves, although I guess they do have versions of that today. But yeah, it can be a little bit shiny. It can be that kind of gray color, but it can age. It can change. But again, if you remember back to the gypsy moth, they also laid egg masses mostly on tree surfaces, on oak trees, but a little bit similar. But again, more so the egg mass, just kind of spread out on top of the surface. And then it's kind of coated over, and then, of course, the eggs are laid underneath that and protected. Sometimes they'll be exposed. That kind of coating will wear off, but they're still there, and they're probably still viable. So at this point in time, that's what you're looking for.
Okay.
And then you can scrape them off, actually just, almost like a credit card, just something stiff enough that you can scrape them off that surface will work, especially when there's not that many, although and on lower surfaces, that's much easier to do.
Sure.
When you start to get into trees, you might be just scraping off 1 or 2 or 5% of the egg masses that are actually within the tree.
I feel like we're doomed.
Well, and fortunately, we've been able to see this coming. The epicenter was down in southeast Pennsylvania, so they've had to deal with this for a number of years now, and so at least they're figuring out things. People are adapting to it. We're starting to see how it's functioning, how it's surviving. Last year was actually a little bit of a little decline in numbers in that area.
But we get an idea of the damage that they cause because it's been around for a few years too.
Yeah.
So what are we looking at in terms of damage?
They're considered a plant hopper. So they themselves do not fly. They're not real strong flyers. They can fly, but hence the name plant hopper. They hop around more than they fly. So they really depend a lot on others, whether it be other things, people, surfaces, hitch a ride to move great distances. And of course, that's what has happened
in order
for that to spread.
Do they eat a particular plant, a vegetable crop, flowers, tree leaves?
So they have sharp proboscis, a mouth part that pierces in, and it can grow like tree of heaven is one of the main preferred hosts. Of course, that's known as a noxious tree. It's a weed species tree.
Yeah, we're supposed to be getting rid of it too.
Yeah, but they're very challenging to get rid of, and they're invasive. They're all over the place. Once you learn to identify them, you'll see them everywhere. And it's true. As you go through this county, they're all over the place. You just have to know what to look for, and they're pretty indiscriminate. You can, go by them and not really notice, yeah, it's a tree, but until you look at the bark closer, look at the leaves, look at the size of it, then you can start to see them everywhere. Black walnut and butternut are also tree species that they will attack, and we have a lot of walnut around the county. And that goes unnoticed too a lot of times. It's just another tree in the woods or along the road.
Walnut trees are so darn dirty anyway.
But they're a dirty tree, and you might only notice them in the fall, in September, October. You're driving down the road and there's this stain on the road, or you hear a clunk, clunk, clunk under your vehicle as you're smashing the nuts when you drive down the road. But that outer husk will cause this big, almost an indigo blue black stain on the surface where it's crushed and smashed. So you'll see this stain along the road, and again, you could still go by and have no idea what that was, other than there was a stain there. Well, it was from the black. It's because there's a black walnut tree or trees there.
Had an enormous black walnut tree in our backyard growing up, and when they would start coming down, I mean, they come down on the roof. It's like you're under attack. I mean, because those things pound off of there. I used to use my pitching wedge and practice on those. I was pretty good.
Yeah, about the right size, aren't they?
A little bit bigger, but okay.
Yeah, so those are species, and grapes are highly susceptible and
to spotted lanternfly.
Yes, they seem to like grapevines, and of course they're going to stick their mouth parts in the vine itself. So they're not going to go along and chew the foliage off of plants. They're going to stick their mouth parts in and remove the plant sap. That's what they feed on. But grapes have been a big issue in areas where the people have vineyards, especially. They have to really pay attention. It can be controlled, but you've got to be on top of it, because they can kill the vines. Usually not the first year that they've attacked them, but and that will, the age and overall health of the vines will factor into that. But within a year, 2 years, 3 years, definitely, if nothing's done, they can wipe out a vineyard.
The natural question is going to be, can I spray for it?
Yes.
For lanternfly.
Absolutely.
With?
And there's several different materials that can be used to do that. There's a couple of different materials that are systemic activity, so you can spray it on the plant. It's absorbed into the plant, and then as the insects feed on there, they'll get a dose of that that'll kill them. They're not that hard to kill, which is a good thing. And so we can use, like right now, if you have egg masses, you can use dormant oil, and you can actually treat the egg mass. And then once the eggs hatch and the nymphs are there, and they'll grow through several different stages. So they'll be small, and then they'll molt and get bigger. They'll change their color patterns, but they'll feed also, as will the adults. So because we're not the first on the list, they've been able to do work and find out what products work the best, are effective and not effective. And so we have materials both on the web as well as printed materials that you can consult to figure that out.
Penn State Extension has a pretty big, extensive, if you will, page devoted to spotted lantern.
Yeah. So being an invasive pest like that, also being new, everybody had to ramp up to, figure out what it is, what it's going to do, how severe will this be. One of the other things that now, because we're in a quarantine county, that can be an issue is there's a permitting process for businesses. So any business that's, hauling things in and out, all that stuff, even working in the area, and then if you work outside the quarantined area, all those businesses are supposed to have a permit.
So timber and logging is going to be affected.
And if you are hauling materials, let's say you make something here, and then you put it on a truck and you haul it to its destination. So you could be staying within the quarantine zone within the state, or if you're going to another state that's already in the quarantine, that's one thing. But if you're going to go where this pest isn't, a number of other states have also put in quarantine so that you just can't. If you're coming from an area that's quarantined, you're going to have to be permitted to get that product shipped where it needs to go. So the Pennsylvania Department of Agriculture is the regulatory agency in the state that handles that. There's it's a free permit, but still, and there's a training that's already set up. You go through the training, and there's an online version as well that you can go through that, and then the Department of Ag will issue permits, and then each vehicle you have are supposed to have a permit, and there's a log that you keep, and you may already be keeping a log of destinations and where the vehicle goes, so you don't have to duplicate that, but supposed to be keeping track of that. So if you would be stopped, then you've got the proper credentials to keep on going.
We are out of time, and that was probably much more than you wanted to know about spotted lanternfly, but it had to be done. Thanks, Bob.
You're welcome.
It is the voice of Indiana County, WCCS 101.1 FM, AM 1160.